Everybody, welcome back. We're doing another Marvel Future Revolution video. In this one, we're going to be taking a look at Star-Lord Best Build PVE. So all those Alliance raids, Dark Zone bosses, regular raids, Blitz, whatever you're doing, player versus environment, we're going to be talking about the best build for you. Always want to shout out to anybody who helps me with these. Special shout out to JS and Obi for talking about Star-Lord. And we're going to dive into this. We're going to have a little bit of a graphic. I'll show you at the front end, and then we'll dive into checking out what they are that we're talking about and give you a little detail after that. So if you find this helpful, please feel free to like and subscribe if you want, but hammer down that like button, okay? All right, check it out.
Bring me WolverThor!
Okay, so we're going to have these little graphics that we're going to start putting out there to make things a little bit easier. I know they're not the nicest thing in the world. For those of you who know me from my MSF days, I do not have the skills of my good friend Punk. But I tried to put something together that's just a quick and dirty. You can check it out and look at it. So we've got the skills over here. We've got the specialization, some companions, and then we get the gear off to the side. So that way it's just a quick, dirty... If you're just looking for something real, you don't want to get deep dives, we'll have this on the Discord. The link to the Discord is in the description below. Just check out the MFR resources. And if you have your own Discord channel or an Alliance Discord, feel free to link and follow that channel. We'll put stuff like this up there anytime that we make it. So I'll go through, like I mentioned in the video, the details of this. I will explain real quick that when you see 8A, 1B and all that sort of thing, I'll show you in the video, but these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then the A, B, C, D is which one of those within that is that we've got shown on the screen here. I'll explain that in a little bit more detail when we pull up the skills. So let's check that out. All right, skills. So you saw on the graphic that the first ability here was marked as 8A. Like I mentioned, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you come up here, A, B, C, D. That's it. Simple. So very similar to the PvP video that we did for Star-Lord. Flame all day. There's a couple things. Really on this build, there's only one difference. And even in that one, you might want to change your mind depending on what you get. But based on some of the testing from some of these folks who are really into Star-Lord, they found that instead of this third ability here, they like the flame boots. You guys can pick that. But anyway, we'll get to that when we get to that. All right, so first ability here, again, typical flame cannonball. Hits hard, hits quick, not a super long cooldown on it. There is a stronger hitting ability, which we mentioned here, the flame laser, but it's got much more stamina required, longer cooldown, and focuses one spot versus that actual flame cannonball, which just, boom, it hits, you're done. All right, so the second ability, as I mentioned, the PvP video, you're going to want to make sure to pick the B. These little things, it's important to know what's within the circle. Get the flame, okay? This is your burning multi-blast. Again, it hits pretty hard, 1,141 damage. It's got 16 to 17 second cooldown. This is a nice ability for doing some good damage. In the third spot here, we've got 2D. Again, you can see second column here. D is the fourth one over. D, A, B, C, D. This is rapid fire spin. In PvP, this is your untargetable ability. Even in PvE, it hits so hard you want to use this. Again, a decent cooldown on it, 20 seconds, 35 stam. In the fourth spot, we kept the dodge skill gauge recovery. This is called Kickstart, as well as the stam recovery. We'll get to this in the specialization. You might wonder, why do I care about dodges with boss fights? Some of those battle challenges you definitely might care, but there's a specialization that builds into the dodge, having as much dodge as you can so that you can dodge, get an extra attack, and then use one of your big abilities. So that's why we want to stay with this. If you really don't like that, I suppose if you're really low on crit rate, maybe you could use this one, which is C. I don't know. I mean, that's up to you ultimately, but I think I'd still, based on talking to these guys who do this, they find that this one gives them a more damage output. All right, the last one. So like I mentioned, we switched from, this is the main change from PvP to PvE. And I will say that this is one of the things I really like about Star-Lord is there's not a lot of changes here. So we went from this third ability here to the, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. we went to 6B. And it just seemed like this had more damage output in general. It's 12-second cooldown. This one is shorter. It's 308%, but it is nice that it's a short cooldown. But this one it hits a bit harder for a little bit longer cooldown. It seems to be what we're getting. I definitely recommend these. I think these are pretty solid, and I'm liking the way they're looking so far, and it puts the biggest damage output out there. All right, we've got the specializations off to the right so that you can see the ones that you will finally want. They are the exact same. If you checked out the PvP video, they're the exact same. So we'll start from the top. Again, you're still going to want to use the damage dealt to targets with 50% HP or less, where you're going to get more damage from them. We talk about multipliers. That's one of the biggest reasons why you want to do this flame build. There's so many multipliers in the game, whether it's crit rate or crit damage or attack, or in this case flame damage or total damage. All these things you want to have up so you've got more multipliers making for your bigger hits. One of the things that makes Star-Lord so good is the fact that he's got one of these flame damage, which a lot of characters don't have. So you've got another multiplier here. Damage dealt to targets, it goes up anytime they're below 50% health. You still want that on your PvE situation. Another one on here. Increase damage of the first skill used within 6 seconds after a dodge, okay? Now, the key to this is, like I mentioned before, where you had that, the skill where it recovered the dodge meter. That's why we still wanted that, is to help build up to this. Again, the percentages on this, they're not built up, so they go higher, and you can get them maybe longer or whatever, but just remember, this is the type of skill that you want for that. All right, next one is the orange one, which is off to the right here. This is a tolerance decrease here. Increases all type damage by whatever percent. So we're talking about flame. That's what we're talking about, okay? We're looking at damage like this that we want to be able to use. So since you've got a flame damage here, this will increase that damage type more and more multipliers once again. And then last but not least, we talked about this before, is decreases remaining cooldown by 5% or whatever percent once every 5 times a skill is used. So I believe the way this will work is every time you've got, 5 abilities on there, by the time you get to the last one, it's going to bring the cooldown of those other abilities around. And there is no cooldown on this ability, meaning like once you do this, you can do it again 5 abilities later if they're all ready. So it keeps bringing everything down. That in itself is rather amazing. I would highly recommend having your longer cooldown abilities up front. And so that way, by the time you get to the end of your and use your 5th skill, that it helps bring those down. Because if you use a lot of short ones first, that means by the time you get to the first one, they're already ready. So you're almost wasting this specialization. But again, make sure you choose which abilities you use depending on the fights, because you might want to have a certain, I know with Widow at least, you want to have a burn down, then you want to do another ability so that the damage to the villain that's got the burn will be increased. You want to increase those multipliers. But regardless, this is a great ability. A lot of his other specializations, we talked about this in PvP again. It's a shock thing. We talked about that. We're using it. Duration of status effects. On PvE, no chance I'm using that one. This is a flame damage done. From what we've seen, we don't get any more damage out of that. Here's a chill item. We've got, I think, some guard breakdown here. Maybe if you're low on status effect accuracy or accuracy rate, you might want to consider this, but I don't think you're going to get the damage output you're going to get from these other ones. This is a shock build. We're not talking about that. This is a chill build. We're not talking about that. Chill again. I mean, and that's pretty much it. You know what I mean? So nothing crazy here, but I think that you definitely want to find a way to use those specializations, stack them up, know when certain things are proccing so that you can increase your damage. All right, now let's talk about companions. All right, so we've got a number of companions here. Really the one I primarily want to talk about is Donna Ports. So there is a cap on flame damage. It's 100%. Her skill increases all type damage by 15% for 10 seconds. Now, you can use skill cards and increase that. I'm not going to do that now. You can see that I haven't put any into this. But if you are not above 85% in your flame damage, this is probably the best option for you. You might even want to consider this if you're a Storm too and watching this, by the way. But she is probably the #1 companion until you get to that point. Once you get to about 85% flame damage type increase, you really, or type damage increase, I don't know if you really want to use here because anything over that is wasted. So from there, you want to look at maybe, you know, like an America Chavez. She obviously does the increased damage. She's just in general amazing. She just gives that debuff with the defense down. In that same token, you could probably consider Cersei. And in that same boat, I know she's not on the graphic, but Athena attack boosts, typical thing. We've got Icarus on this one in particular because anytime you're trying to do high damage, Icarus is a really good one to have. He still just does just super high levels, and a lot of people did build him up. So for that reason, we do still have him on here. But I think overall, the 4 that you see over to the side there, they're the highest. And again, it's critical to understand that you want to use Donna Ports up until that point where you're getting to that 85% type skill damage buff, because anything over that, anytime you summon her, is a little bit wasted. You might want to keep her between 85 and 90%. Again, depending how much you skill. If this thing goes up to 20%, then that anything over 80% would be a waste. But you guys get the idea. She's a great companion to have for Star-Lord, and the other 3 are just some of your typical options to help increase that damage on a PVE type target. So we'll end the video with that. Again, we've got the gear listed on here. Typically, I'm not going to go into deep detail on those. It's the flame build, so you want to have gear that leans into flame. In this case, it's Sakaar and Eye of Osiris. So I hope these type of videos, I hope these little graphics that we're going to be doing are helpful to you guys. As I mentioned earlier, I want to give a special shout out to JS and OBJam for helping with these. I have these graphics on my Discord in the MFR resources tab. Feel free to link and follow that. If you like what you see here and want to share with your alliance mates or aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, grandma, grandpas, always appreciate you. If you want to look for future content or help out with the YouTube algorithms or anything like that, feel free to hammer down like buttons, subscribe, notification bells, all that sort of thing. And until next time, hope you have a wonderful day.